Sometimes the smallest connection becomes the doorway to the life you were meant to live. Welcome to the Voice of Impact, where belief meets action. Our podcast amplifies stories, systems, and solutions behind meaningful change. I'm your host, Robert Ndoping. Today's conversation speaks to something deeply human, our need to belong, to be seen, and to find each other in a world that is more connected than ever, yet often feels more alone than ever. My guest today is Richard Litai, the founder of Excuses to Connect. He's a TEDx speaker, an author, an instructor at the Southern Alberta Institute of Technology. Richard is on a mission to help people rediscover something many of us have forgotten: how to form meaningful, life changing human connections. Through his work, he shares relatable, practical strategies that make connections easier, especially in a time where loneliness has quietly become one of the most widespread human experiences. Drawing from psychology, semantics, and trauma informed practices, Richard helps people reconnect, not just socially, but internally, empowering them to show up more fully in their personal and professional lives. His guiding belief is simple yet profound. You never know how any connection can transform your life. Richard, we're happy to have you today on the Voice of Impact show.
Thank you. You made me sound so professional with your like radio voice and bio. Yeah, I'm glad to be here.
You're welcome, Richard. You're welcome. So, before we talk about excuses to connect and the impact you're making on connection, I'd like to start with you because I love to know, and I know there's somebody listening today that wants to know or learn about your story, your own life experience, and what led you to focus on human connection.
Yeah, thank you for that. One way I frame it for people is my mess is my message, as in the mess that I went through growing up, which was a lot of shyness, loneliness, feeling like I didn't fit in, eventually led me to speaking on this topic, it being my message that I wanted to support other people around. So, as some context, I remember feeling like I never really quite fit in. I was constantly worried of what people are thinking about me. Are they judging me on what I'm saying? Do I need to change myself so I can feel more sense of belonging? And all these insecurities followed me into adulthood as well. A really pivotal moment in my life was moving from my hometown of Calgary, where both Robert and I are based in, and going to Lethbridge, which is about 2 hours away for university. And that experience of starting from scratch was challenging. I was surrounded by people, but still felt homesick and out of place. And I couldn't help but compare myself to the people around me too. I could see on social media that they're going to these fun events and parties, and yet I'm sitting alone in my dorm room wondering, why am I being excluded? Am I doing something wrong? It seems like other people have figured this out. And what shifted things for me is I came across a post from Humans of New York. For listeners that don't know what that is, this is a project where this photographer would approach strangers in New York, interview them, get to know their stories, and then post it online. And I thought to myself, I'm so desperately craving connection right now that maybe this will help. I could do this too. And with that seed of that idea, I reached out to my residence assistant, so the person that's looking after my floor, and asked her, "Is like, hey, I know this might sound weird, but can I interview you? I want to share your story. I want to be able to build more connection on campus." And to my surprise, she said yes. And even in that first conversation, I remember asking her, what was your experience like transitioning to university? And she shared with me that it was hard to make friends. She felt homesick. She felt lonely. And that's when it finally clicked. It's not just me. there's nothing wrong with me. It's just that this topic is so under discussed. And I was feeling this shame and stigma around it because I felt like a loser to admit, like, I don't have friends. I feel lonely. There's nothing wrong with me. It's just that growing up, there's no classes on how do you make friends. At least I didn't have those classes, Robert. And so I realized that there's this big gap. How different would my life have been had there been a speaker that come talk to me in university or younger to normalize this and more importantly, teach me those skills? Literally, social skills has the word skills in it. It's something that's practicable and something that you can develop mastery around. And yet, I think it's just this thing that I have to figure out, and so many people have to figure out all these unspoken rules. So I realized even though that speaker didn't exist for me, I want to be that speaker because there's younger Richards and older Richards out there that are facing very similar struggles, whether you've moved to a new city, started a new job, gone through a type of separation in your life. All of those disrupt our social network, and yet we're not talking about like how do you build those connections or rebuild those connections, which are so important, not just for, our personal well-being, but also just professionally too, like networking, finding, as you said at the beginning, like being in the right doors or around the right people to access these opportunities. So I could talk about this for hours and hours, but that's a bit of a glimpse as to taking my own personal struggle. So my mess became my message that I want to help other people around.
Oh, Richard, I mean, I could sense the passion that comes out from you when you speak about this topic. I mean, it comes so natural when
Hmm.
you talk about it. But I want to touch a little bit on something. So that
Hmm.
season of your life that you mentioned, what did it teach you about people and the true need inside?
Hmm. Something that really shifted for me was people are people. I had all these like misconceptions or like over dramatization in my mind that like, oh, people aren't gonna like me or they can't relate. When in reality, we're human, and humans, we come from different walks of life, but we still have similar types of experiences that we can relate on. I mean, Robert, you and I have known each other for what now, 5, 6 years? Funnily enough, we've only met in person maybe like 4 or 5 times. But I think we've been, even though we come from very different backgrounds, we're able to relate to each other with, ups and downs that come with this type of life. And so more and more I've realized like we have this, what I call like perceived distance from people. And it's a perception. It's like, when you think of that CEO or someone that has a lot of achievements or higher authority or even just a stranger in general, we can feel this sort of resistance. I felt it of like, oh, I don't want to bother that person. They wouldn't want to talk to me. Like, who am I to take up space? When in reality, they used to be a beginner too. We all started from scratch on something. And I don't let that perception stop me anymore because more often than not, that distance is not real. It's like I talk to anyone, not everyone, but I talk to people very often now, and most of the time people are great. And in the rare instances where you feel like the energy is off, it's not my fault. It's just like they might be having an off day or they might not really want to chat, and that's okay. I don't have to take that personally either. So I've really just seen the beauty and openness of humanity.
Oh, yeah. So just going back again and really just really wrapping around
Hmm.
this topic.
Yeah, yeah.
When did you first realize that connection wasn't just social, but transformational?
Yeah. When did I realize this? The transformation element, certainly there's this dimension of connecting with other people, but I think the most transformational aspect is my relationship to myself. Because I don't know if any of you listeners can relate to this. Sometimes we're very hard on ourselves, right? We judge, we criticize ourselves. We're our own worst critic in a way. It's not even what other people say to us. And I used to feel like, oh, I'm not good enough. I was studying music in university. I was constantly comparing, like, I'm a bad musician. Maybe I should just quit. Everyone heard my mistakes when I was on stage. And as I've connected more with myself, and what I mean by that's like, how can I be my own best friend? Would I talk if a friend was going through the same circumstances as I was, would I be judging them? Probably not. I'd be showing this type of compassion and understanding towards them of like, yeah, that sounds really hard and giving them that type of space and presence to just feel what they're feeling and then encourage them as well. So more and more I've like developed that self-compassion, that self-trust, that inner leadership, whatever words you want to use for it. And that's really supported me as I've gone. I'm still learning. There's still so much to learn, but like this relationship for myself really has shifted. Where in the past I used to feel like I'm not good enough. I'm not valuable, I'm not worthy, has really shifted to, well, I believe in myself. I can take care of myself. My self-worth isn't defined by other people's expectations or validations because I can give that to myself internally. And when people have that sense of coherence and stability, it's like you're unstoppable. I mean, yes, there's still difficulties in life, but you always know you have your own back. So perhaps even more than one way I could frame it too, it's like your relationship with yourself or how you talk to yourself also sets the tone for how other people talk to you or how you relate to other people. Because the more authentic and confident you can show up, then that just attracts like-minded people as well. So that's really been the transformational aspect and continues to evolve because the question of who am I or who are you, I think is something that sticks with people all their life. So I'm still constantly revisiting what that means to me, especially as, I know in your case, Robert, in my case too, we go through transitions in our life. Then we have these big questions like, who am I now? Right? I thought I was this job title or this role or this context, but then things change. And I think we have to have some willingness too to keep being curious about ourselves of like, yeah, I was this identity, but that doesn't have to be the case forever. What is this new person that I'm becoming or want to become? So yeah, those are some of my thoughts around that.
I mean, you talked about evolution and all of that, which makes a lot of sense. And you
Hmm.
just talked about, us identifying what is inside of us, our own personal identity, which is really just amazing, and it aligns a lot with, with this specific topic. And I believe somebody listening, speaking up a few things.
Hmm.
Um, so we live in a time where people are more digitally connected. I mean, more
Hmm.
than ever. I mean, we have AI, we have all
Hmm.
sorts of things. Like now we're talking virtually.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah, we live in the same city, you and I, but at least we're talking virtually because we've been blessed with technology to be able to use on some of these things. So
Hmm.
we are more digitally connected more than ever. Yet, many still feel deeply lonely. I mean,
Hmm.
from your perspective, why is meaningful connection becoming harder even though we are so digitally connected?
Yeah, technology or like the digital world, I think that's the complexity to it. In a way, it can be a very helpful tool. I have friends around the world now that I've never met in person, but I genuinely feel like I really connect with them because we have shared values. We've shared a lot of stories with each other. And yet, as you said, technology is also something that's really driving us apart. In fact, earlier today, I was at the Calgary Teachers Convention. I was helping film one of my friends who was doing a keynote speech there. And we were talking about this youth mental health crisis, and large part of it is driven by smartphones. There's a great book called The Anxious Generation by Jonathan Haidt, and it talks about how when kids nowadays are getting access to phones from a very young age, first of all, their brains are they're not well developed yet. So they're very vulnerable to the addictive qualities. Just even think of adults, and we can spend like hours and hours, but especially kids, like they don't have that quite of foresight or self-control or boundary setting yet. And it's reprogramming how they see the world. Because what do you think? Like, even when I was in university, I was comparing myself to the content I would see, right? On social media, people post the best parts of their life, but it's not reality. But our minds think that if that's constantly the content you're consuming, of like, oh, that person has like went on the perfect vacation, they have the perfect body, they have the nicest house. And so we start feeling that shame and guilt in our own system too. And it's causing more anxiety and depression, not just among the younger generation, but I think has this lasting impact for other people too. And so it's really challenging. We have to be very intentional about how we use technology. I'm not anti-technology, but certainly we have to be mindful of how we use it. One of the books I read recently on this too is Digital Minimalism by Cal Newport, which I also recommend for folks. It's not about like, oh, we have to like get rid of all our phones and computers and go back to the Stone Age. I mean, there's benefits, tangible benefits with AI and our phones and all that. It's just that we don't want it to be absorbing our attention and having it take away from the things that really matter to us. And when it comes to like making these meaningful connections, like one of those paradoxes now, like you can live in a city with millions of people and not know your neighbor. Like you don't know the person beside you in your house or in your apartment. And so I think there's needs to be a lot more of this awareness and discussion too of in my philosophy, like finding excuses to connect. Oftentimes we find excuses to avoid people. When I do my presentations, I'll often ask people, it's like, okay, raise your hand if any of you have ever pretended you're sick or like you're too busy and you told someone to get out of like a social engagement. And people will raise their hand. I've done it too. It's like, oh, I'm sick. I'm too busy. So we've made this excuse to avoid people. But I think equally there's this opportunity to make excuses to connect. That every single day there's these small opportunities that if we're intentional and curious, we can spark these meaningful connections. It's not like this big dramatic thing. It's literally like asking people like, "What's your name?" Because it's a name that turns a stranger into a friend. Um, One thing I've done in my personal life, and even I was practicing this today, is like just learning how to say hi or hello or how are you or thank you in different languages. And when you use that, people's faces immediately like light up because they're surprised that like you know how to speak their language. There's extra level of respect. I learned some words today in Tigrinya, which is the language in Eritrea. I never knew that language before, but yeah, I know a bunch of different languages now that I was like chatting with people with. So, all that to say, it's like, yes, technology can be dividing us. I think it is a tool that we can use mindfully. And I think it just brings this extra level of importance now of in-person connections as well, and how we're trying to find opportunities or excuses for that in our day-to-day lives.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, there's many benefits of technology, but it could also be a barrier for
Hmm.
human connection, especially depending on the way we use it. And you mentioned how kids use it nowadays and, the formation of their brains. I think there's lots of research about it. And we can go on that. But Richard, I mean, from your own perspective, what could be the psychological or physiological effects of loneliness?
Mm. Yeah, I love this question because there's science behind this. One of the pieces of research or the literature around this I find very interesting is when we experience loneliness, the pain of loneliness triggers the same part of our brain as physical pain. That's why it can feel very heavy or like stinging in our system or very yeah, when we're feeling lonely. And there's a reason for this. Like, I don't think that loneliness is a problem necessarily. Like, I see it from this lens of like, why did we evolve to have this? Why is this still part of our system and our functioning? And what the science shows is that it's a biological signal. Just as hunger is our body's way of telling us to go eat, thirst is our body's way of going us to drink water, loneliness is our signal to go connect. Because if you think of our ancestors, if you were kicked out of your tribe, your chances of survival are very low. So it makes sense that we've evolved this mechanism to remind us that we are social creatures. There's social norms. We have to stick together in order to thrive. But I think sometimes we've missed out on that now in this sometimes very individualistic society. Where literally, you could order food to your house, you could do self-checkout, you could go to the ATM, you could go through your whole day without interacting with another human being. And so I think it's really important now to remember that we are social creatures, but we're living in this modern world that has a lot of divisions that we need to bridge. Um,
Some of these things are,
sure, sure, sure.
I mean, you talked about people going out for a day without
Yeah,
connecting. There are people that can go out for a month
yeah, yeah,
without
yeah.
actually even connecting with anybody,
Yes.
right? I mean, because there's everything online and you can stock your fridge and I mean, you could get things delivered to your door.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
I mean, people have been found dead in their homes, especially people who
mm,
live alone,
mm-hmm,
maybe after weeks or even a
mm-hmm,
month, because
mm-hmm,
nobody ever knew. Um, that they were there alone or they were sick or something happened. So we could talk about this topic over and over again.
mm-hmm.
But why do people struggle to reach out?
Yeah, I think it's a number of things. Um, we just might feel awkward around it. Like, oftentimes we'll think of people. Like in my presentations, I talk about this principle of I thought of you. And yet, when we think of someone, whether it's an old friend, a teacher, a boss, how many times do we actually follow through to reach out? Uh, if you're like most people, you might stop because it's like, oh, it's been so long since I've talked to them. Are they going to remember me? Is it going to be weird if I just reach out to them out of the blue? What will they think? And so, similar to when I was younger, it's like, again, we can have a lot of these internal worries and struggles that stop us from taking action. But what I realized is that temporary discomfort is worth it in the end. If we really put ourselves in this perspective too, of like, maybe I'll never get to interact with this person again. I know that sounds a bit morbid or intense, but like truly you never know when the last opportunity you might get is. And do I want to live with that regret of having these unexpressed appreciation or unexpressed gratitude for how this person has mattered to me? And so one of the practices that I do is to text people like, "Hey, I was thinking of you today, wanted to thank you," and sharing a story or moment of how they've impacted me. So done that through texting. I'll surprise phone call people too, to just let them know like, yeah, this is why they matter to me. Because sometimes we can forget on both ends. Like both for the person that's receiving it, they might forget like, wow, actually someone cares about me, that they're telling me right now how they've been impacted by my presence and my actions. And then for me as the person that's giving the call, it makes me feel good too because it just reminds me I'm not going through life alone. There's been lots of people that have helped me along the way and continue to be part of shaping my life's story. So even though we live in this sort of myth now of like we're very disconnected, it's hard to reach out, it's also possible. It's like a muscle you can exercise, just like going to the gym. It might feel weird and awkward, or you might feel weak at it. But as you keep practicing and exercising that, it becomes second nature. You strengthen that muscle, and there might not be that fear anymore. So, yes, can be these difficulties to reach out. I struggled with that for many, many years. And it's also a skill that you can practice and develop. And as you give your body and your mind more data of like, oh, I reached out to this person, it didn't go poorly, it actually went very positively, then it reshapes your belief. I mean, we're both coaches, so we know like as you feed yourself more evidence, it changes your mindset and worldview as well. So can totally empathize for people with people that are might be going through this or listening to this. Like, well, Richard, I don't think I can reach out to people. You can. Like I truly believe like everything I share nowadays, it's from this perspective because I used to be the exact opposite of this. So it's possible for you too. So that's what I would share with the listeners.
Yeah, I mean, you've given some tips there
Yeah.
that you use, and just for for someone to try to connect.
Hmm.
Do you agree that loneliness can affect not just emotional well-being, but
Hmm.
also your identity, confidence, and even your purpose?
Hmm. Yeah, it certainly can because I think ultimately we are, yes, we can have our own goals in life, but there's also a lot of research to show like purpose or a greatest sense of fulfillment comes from serving others or serving something beyond ourselves. It feels like we're part of this larger fabric of humanity or this type of collective. So inherently, even if you can achieve a lot in your life, whether it's, wealth, status, all of this, anecdotally, there's a lot of this like hollowness that comes with that too. Yes, I have all these material things, but what does it matter if I'm not close to the people around me? If I don't have people that love me for who I am? And so I think deep down, it's what people are really craving. And science shows like we need those relationships still to be our best selves. It's this combination of like when you have a secure social network or support system that gives you something to fall back on and encourages you to be more independent. Because it's like, okay, I can take these big risks, I can chase after my dreams in my life because I have those people supporting me. I have people to fall back on or people to cheer me on as I pursue my goals. So it's both together. So yes, purpose definitely is tied in with having those people around you as well. And besides loneliness, because certainly loneliness is one way of framing it. One of my colleagues in this realm, her name's Casley. She's big on the term social health. And I've adopted that into my vocabulary too, where we talk about physical health, we talk about mental health, but social health is this missing dimension or pillar to our well-being too. And like the framing of social health, because it's proactive, you don't need to be lonely to work on your social health. It's just something that it's this thing that you could continually invest in and would continually pay back dividends too. That the more we can increase our social health or social fitness, um, it just enriches the life around us too. So really, this is for everyone. It's not just, yes, there might be some people listening right now that feel very chronically lonely, and there might be people listening right now. It's like, yeah, I feel pretty good socially, but it's actually something you could keep investing in, that will really expand your life. I know some people say too, it's like your network is your net worth, which is, I guess, a more businessy way of saying it. But also just like, true wealth can come from your relationships too, and the meaning you derive from those rather than like material belongings.
Yeah, I mean, you've given some really practical aspects there. Now, I
Hmm.
want to get a little deeper into something which I know you've studied a little bit about, and
Hmm.
and some of your things which I know comes out from your studies and your readings. I mean,
Hmm.
how somatics and trauma awareness can influence connection.
Yeah. So for folks that might not know what somatics is, because I did not know what this was until my therapist introduced it to me about like a year or year and a half ago. Somatics is another way of saying, or like somatics is a field that talks about the body and how we relate to the body, or not just the body, but like this intersection of our body and our mind, our spirit, and all that. The reason I bring it up now is because I thought I was connected to myself before. And somatics has just taken that to a whole deeper level or a whole higher level. Like, actually, no, I was not that connected to myself yet. I realized because of my shaping growing up through school, through my parents, I was very, and still am, very intellectual or academic. So I'm very up in my head, which has served me well and has also led to this relationship where I felt disconnected from my body. It's felt like I've just been dissociated or living at a distance from my body, away from my body, rather than within it itself. And that would lead to this relationship where I feel disconnected from my body, but also sometimes I feel like I'm fighting my body or I don't want to be in this body. Um, I mean, I have a skin condition called eczema, which sometimes it causes like flare-ups on my body. My skin gets very dry and itchy and red. And during those periods where I'm in flare-ups, I've said to myself, it's like, I hate this. Like, I don't want to be in this body. Why am I this way? Why can't I be normal? And for other folks that are listening that might have these medical conditions too, it's like, how is it that we, in a way, to our body is us? How do we relate to it? One of my friends told me early on in my somatics journey of like, you don't have a body, Richard. You are a body. It's not this object you possess outside of yourself. It's something that you are. You are it. So how do you, it is you. How do you relate to it? How do you relate to yourself? And so the somatics realm has really been a slow journey, a very gradual journey, because our body can hold a lot of this trauma too. There's a great book called The Body Keeps the Score, which is literally it's like trauma intergenerationally. It's stored within our nervous system. And so it's been this slow journey of feeling like I'm coming home to myself rather than living at a distance. Like, can I actually be in this physical body? And can I relate to it with, again, the same amount of empathy or being a best friend to this body for everything that it does? It tries its best in these different types of conditions, and can I actually listen to it? That's been the real game changer too, because the body doesn't necessarily communicate through words. It communicates through sensations. So can I trust and lean into like, oh, the situation, like I have a gut feeling that the situation isn't quite right for me. But if you're like me, Robert, there might be lots of times before where I know in my heart or in my gut that I really shouldn't say yes or I should say no to this opportunity, and yet my mind says yes. And then I get myself into these situations where I'm like, ah, I'm misaligned. I'm being incongruent or like I'm not having integrity to my inner wisdom. So it's been this journey of like, yeah, what feels like a full body yes or a wholehearted yes, as opposed to what my mind can sometimes override these things too. So um on and on I can go. I'm still discovering it. Robert, as you know, I'm doing my 200-hour yoga teacher training right now too, which has also been this journey of like getting to be in my body more. What feels good for my body rather than like overthinking things. Because I think it's really our minds that can get us stuck in these. As powerful as our minds are, it can also get us stuck into these cycles, as you're saying, of like worrying about what other people think, comparing ourselves to others, feeling disconnected when it's might not be true. It's just these stories that our minds have come up with. So, yeah, those are some thoughts.
Yeah, Richard, I mean, thank you for sharing. And I mean, this brings to mind connection and vulnerability.
Hmm.
So, what did you personally have to overcome to become someone who builds connections, not just intentionally, but
Hmm.
authentically?
It's easier said than done. I think everyone, it's hard. It's hard to be authentic because we have so many of our parts of ourselves that are trying to protect us. Like we have very well-intended parts that are like trying to sense for danger. Who can I actually trust? Who can I open up with? Who do I need to be to feel safe? A few things I would offer for listeners. One person that kick-started my personal development journey is Brene Brown. I read her book Daring Greatly while I was in university, and that really changed my perspective on things. So, as context, she talks about vulnerability. She talks about shame and worthiness and how it's hard to be vulnerable. And yet, in the society, we can think it's like it's a weakness. We shouldn't show our vulnerability because people could hurt us. But also, how can we cultivate enough safety and worthiness or wholeheartedness, as she puts it, so that we can be our authentic and vulnerable selves around people? So conceptually, that's, what's possible. More practically, um, it's this practice of listening to myself, listening to my own intuition, because if, as I was saying before, like my gut feeling will tell me something, my heart will tell me something, and learning to trust that more as opposed to what other people's expectations or narratives are that they might have imposed or that I've unconsciously adopted from my upbringing. I think this shift to in terms of I used to be so worried of do people like me? And eventually I had the shift to do I like them? Like, why am I so concerned if they like me when I might not even enjoy spending time with them? I can set my own boundaries on who I want in my life or not. And it was a hard realization to know that I'm not going to get along with everyone. Not everyone's going to like me, and that's okay. Realizing that the more I can be myself and more authentic, yes, that will upset some people. Yes, that will, distance me from some people. And it will increase the likelihood that I'll be around people that genuinely care and cheer me on for who I am. It's not these relationships where I feel like I constantly have to people please and negotiate and pretend and perform in order to get that type of validation. So that was a profound shift for me too. I'm also thinking back to I used to be part of a therapy group in university, aptly named Connecting with Self and Others was the name of the group. And I remember one of the participants, she was sharing how it's been this journey of going from a doormat to a door. So doormats are someone that people walk over, right? There's no sense of boundaries. You're available to everyone. People trample over you. They might not even see you there. So you end up getting hurt and stepped on. But her journey now is like becoming a door. So if you think to like a door to a house, for example, it's like a physical representation of boundaries. You're not going to let strangers into your house, hopefully. Like you would have some sense of like, this is my personal sacred space, and I'm going to be intentional with who I choose to let in or not. It's not every single person. Or if you think of a restaurant too, it's not open 24/7. You don't have to be available 24/7 to people. You can set, here's my opening hours. You can set your door policy of like, if you're not wearing shoes, you can't come in. And so like boundaries is this practice of being able to protect and have enough healthy separation from those around you. So the people you do choose to let in, like you've developed enough trust and safety for you to have this deeper relationship. So it's not being accessible to everyone. It's having more of this self-trust and this self-respect um, to cultivate the relationships you want. So those are some analogies people can play around with. I really love this doormat to door one though. It's something that's stuck in my mind, even though it's been many, many years later.
Yeah, I mean it's the first time I'm hearing that, but it
Hmm.
really lands with me. I mean, going from a doormat to a door, and that analogy where you really explain what a doormat is all about and what a door is about. I think that's really major, and I believe somebody listening might be able to pick something from there.
Hmm.
Really, I mean, how you're vulnerable even when you're connecting, but also really setting boundaries, just so that there's
Hmm.
some people that just people could hurt you. That's just nature, and people might not like you. But how
Hmm.
you're still vulnerable, but you set your own boundaries and still find ways to connect. So, Richard, listen to someone listening who feels invisible and disconnected. What would be your advice for them?
Start with yourself. Um, I remember participating in this guided meditation before. It was like at a community center here in Calgary. And the facilitator asked us this question of what's something in your life that you've always yearned or longed to hear from someone else but never received, whether it's from a parent, a loved one, what is that word or that phrase that you really wanted to hear from them, but you've still never gotten? And so in my mind, I thought of these words of like, I love you, I'm so proud of you, you're enough. And for the longest time, I've wanted to hear that from my parents. They've never said it to me directly. And then the facilitator went on to say, whatever phrase you thought of, what if instead of waiting any longer, you just told that to yourself? You can offer that to yourself. And it seems so simple of a shift. I remember still in that moment, like it landed very powerfully for me. Like I could feel emotions and tears starting to come up and started repeating those phrases to myself of like, well, Richard, I'm proud of you, or I'm proud of myself. You are good enough. You are love, or I love you. And that still sticks with me because I realized like yes, of course, we're social creatures. It's nice and vital to have these connections around you. And yet one of your most important connections is to yourself. You're going to be with yourself 24/7 until your last breath, whenever that is for you. And so when you're feeling this invisibility or this disconnection, start with yourself. You can think of that phrase that you've always really wanted to hear from someone. What if you offered that to yourself? What if you started cultivating that self connection? Um, so that's something practical and profound, perhaps, for people to really consider. And to offer yourself that gentleness too. Besides Brene Brown, one of the other early people in my personal development journey that really helped out, her name is Dr. Kristen Neff. She does research and speaks on self-compassion. Again, it can be easy to express compassion towards other people, and yet why are we so hard on ourselves? And so her research delves into these components of self-compassion. First of all, of having self-kindness, of like, you wouldn't say this to a friend, so can you actually just offer yourself some gentleness and kindness towards yourself? There's also this aspect of common humanity versus self-isolation. Sometimes when we're feeling this invisibility, we can feel like we're the only ones that are going through this. There's something uniquely wrong with me. It's just me going through this. Like, how is it? I experienced loneliness when I was growing up. But as you talk to more people, or if you can even just imagine this mindset's like, I'm not the only one going through this. This is part of the common human experience. There's nothing uniquely wrong with me. Other people go through this too. Again, that can help relax our system and gives us some compassion. And then lastly, Tristan talks about mindfulness versus over identification. Especially as coaches, we can relate to this. Like sometimes we get so wrapped up in the story. What we over identify with, like, oh, life is so bad, I'm invisible, no one wants to talk to me. And you can just go down this rabbit hole and get very stuck down there. So mindfulness, what that means is like it's just being more neutral or observational. It's like, yes, I notice right now I'm feeling this loneliness. This is, I'm feeling this heaviness or like this emptiness in my heart. You can acknowledge how you're feeling without going into the story too. Like you can just mindfully acknowledge, like, yeah, this is what I'm experiencing right now. This is hard. I'm feeling this pain. I'm going to be kind to myself and realizing that this is part of the human experience too. So self-compassion, I think, is a very valuable skill. It's a skill. Most people don't have it right away. Most people are very hard on themselves. So it's a skill that we can also cultivate that I think reduces that sense of invisibility or disconnection that you're describing.
Oh yeah, Richard, I think that's a very, very powerful lesson, is that the
Mhm,
connection starts with us. And self-compassion is something that we need to practice, especially when we feel invisible or disconnected.
mhm,
I just believe somebody's listening and somebody has taken a lesson from all of the things you've shared. So as we begin to wrap things up here, Richard, we have a tradition at the Voice of Impact.
mhm.
So we have a wet die right here, and the wet die has a couple of what we call Voice of Impact themes. And I'll read them just so that you can choose two.
Okay.
One will be for you to relate to your journey briefly, and then the other will be for somebody listening to us today. So it's make a difference, rebuild, overcome, stronger, peace, and patience. So can choose two from that, make a difference, rebuild, overcome, stronger, peace, and patience.
Okay. I like peace and patience. I'll apply patience to myself and then peace as this message as we wrap up for the listeners. It's been a journey of patience, Robert. Um, yeah, even I hope listeners get this impression too that it's like I'm not perfect. Like there's still certainly times, even in recent while, where I'm like, God, things are going wrong in my life. What am I doing? I feel bad, all of that. So it's not that it's like, perfectly smooth sailing now, but I think what's been so important for me is just to have this spirit of patience, of letting things unfold at its own time, not worrying or trying to embody this sense like I'm not behind. I'm where I'm meant to be, right? I'm meant to meet, have these opportunities or challenges at the time that they're happening in my life to teach me certain lessons. And even in these struggles, what am I learning or gaining or growing from this? So I think that patience with myself rather than chasing or striving or needing to prove myself has felt really good in my system. That I don't have to be hustling for my self-worth. I can actually be calm and slow and steady and much more attuned to what's going on for me and also present for other people too. So patience with myself, which is very different because I still parts of me that are very like high achieving, go fast, be busy, all of that. So patience has been really a virtue I've been trying to cultivate more. And then peace, that word stood out to me. Um, the reason is at the end of yoga class, for any folks that have been to yoga class before, we'll like bow to each other. We'll say namaste, which in a way is saying like the light in me sees the light in you, and wishing this sense of, peace for all beings because we do live in a world that can sometimes feel very dark and depressing. And for ourselves too, we can feel very disconnected to ourselves. And there's a lot of suffering. And it's my genuine hope and wish that people can feel that sense of peace. Being able to actually slow down and feel like things are okay. Or even that life feels good right now. I feel good to be me, or it feels good to be around other people. Um, because otherwise, what's the point? Like we can be chasing all like, oh, our minds onto the next thing. It's like we're either like worrying about yesterday or being anxious about tomorrow. Where's the time for us to actually be in the present moment and savor and enjoy it for what it is? So it's my hope that listeners can find a sense of peace, more moments of peace in their life too. It's not always going to be that way, but I think it's such a vital thing as we go through life too that we have this sense of like fulfillment and peace. So,
Thank you. Thank you
yeah.
so much, Richard. I believe somebody must have gotten the message,
Hmm.
especially the sense of peace. So now, Richard, we're wrapping up here. How can people connect with you and learn more about excuses to connect?
Yeah. Thank you for prompting that, Robert. So listeners, if you want to find an excuse to connect, this is your opportunity. You can reach out to me. Two main ways. You can find me on my website, excusestoconnect.com. I do have a form there that you're welcome to fill out. Otherwise, my email address is richard@excusestoconnect.com, and feel free to send me a message there too, especially if you enjoyed this episode, there's something that really stood out to you. Would love to hear because I'm a nerd about connection. I could talk about this for hours. There's just so many different angles to look at it from. So always happy to chat further if you have questions or just want to share more about your own story too.
Richard, thank you. Thank you for reminding us that connection isn't accidental, it's intentional. Today's conversation reminds us that connection is not just about meeting people, it's about finding ourselves reflected in others. And to the person listening right now, you're not alone, you're not invisible. And one connection can change everything. Richard outlined a couple of tips, techniques, and he also gave you an opportunity to reach out if at all you feel you want to connect, you want to learn more, or you have maybe a speaking engagement that you may feel that Richard will be the good person to come to your company, even to your small business, or however that is, to be able to help with this conversation and move it forward. Please feel free, reach out to Richard. So we are Ndoping and co-performance designers and strategy coaches. We support entrepreneurs and nonprofits in establishing what we call a sustainable system for measurable output. We coach, we clarify, we redefine, and we support organizational and entrepreneurial strategy and build alignment in what we call a system that can give you back time and establishes a work culture and provide the strength that withstands all the turbulences of business. Our website is www.ndopingco.com, and our business email is coaching@ndopingco.com. You can also find us on Facebook, Ndoping Coaching, Instagram, Ndoping_CO. And today we've had Richard on the Voice of Impact, and I love Richard because he has so much in his brain, and I've just been able to tap just a little bit of that. So if you want to tap more, you want to learn more, you want to connect more, please reach out to him. This has been the Voice of Impact. Until next time, keep reaching out, keep connecting, and keep using.
It's very simple. Empower as many people as possible. Empower as many leaders as possible. Touch as many, professionals as I can. Be able to make a difference.